Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'm Nur Fatihah binti Ishaq, metric number 1231092. Inshallah today we from group 1 we present to you our assignment about Prophet Harun alaihi salam. First of all, we will start with profession. Prophet Harun had multiple primary roles. First, as the co-messenger, he delivered Allah's message alongside Prophet Musa to Pharaoh and the children of Israel. It is stated in Quran Surah Taha, verse 40 to 44, and Surah Yunus, verse 75. Second, as a minister or deputy leader, wazir, he shared governance responsibilities and supported Musa's prophetic mission. This shown in the Quran Surah Taha, verse 29 to 32, and Surah Al-Furqan, verse 35. These roles show his active participation in leadership and guidance. Prophet Harun also demonstrated many core competencies. 1. Delegated leadership and authority, leading effectively under Musa's authority while maintaining loyalty. We can see it in the Quran Surah Taha, verse 94, and Surah Al-A'raf, verse 150. 2. Strategic and ethical communication, speaking gently yet persuasively to Pharaoh and the people to avoid conflict, in Quran Surah Taha, verse 44. These competencies highlight his wisdom and ethical decision-making. Next, his contributions that yielded significant results. First, execution of the prophetic mission, participating directly in the divine mission against Pharaoh through miracles and public proclamation. Second, preservation of community unity, preventing the children of Israel from fragmenting during the Golden Calf crisis. These achievements secured guidance and stability for the community. Then, we're gonna look at the miracles of Prophet Harun alaihi salam. I brought to you guys 3 examples of the miracle, which is the first one, staff-consuming falsehood wrought miracle. This can be seen in Surah Ash-Shu'ara, verse 45 to 48. 2. Bestowal of the clear book, Quran Surah As-Saffat, verse 117. And 3. Preservation of sacred relics, Tabuk, in Quran Surah Al-Baqarah, 248.
Next, indicators of intellectual intelligence in the character of Prophet Harun, peace be upon him. The first one is fluid reasoning. The inferential intelligence of Prophet Harun, peace be upon him, is evident when he faced the trial of calf worship. He assessed the situation with careful and precise reasoning without haste or emotional reaction. As a result, he chose not to use force, fearing that doing so would lead the division among Bani Israel. This is reflected in his explanation to Prophet Musa, peace be upon him, in Surah Taha, verse 94, and Surah Al-A'raf, verse 150. This demonstrates his ability to analyze complex situations and make decisions that achieve the lesser of two harms. Next, the second one is crystallized knowledge. As for crystallized intelligence, it is evident from the very status of Prophet Harun, peace be upon him. Allah appointed him as a prophet and bestowed upon him knowledge and guidance, as mentioned in Surah Maryam, verse 53, and Surah Al-An'am, verse 84. This indicates that he possessed firm religious knowledge and a deep understanding of revelation, which qualified him for leadership and spiritual guidance along Prophet Musa, peace be upon him. The third one is quantitative reasoning and organization of responsibilities. Organizational intelligence and the ability to understand the division and distribution of tasks are evident in the supplication of Prophet Musa, peace be upon him, in which he asked that Harun be made a partner in the mission. This is mentioned in Surah Taha, verses 29 to 32. This indicates that Prophet Harun, peace be upon him, was capable of comprehending the leadership structure and managing responsibilities in a coordinated and integrated manner. Next, number 4, working memory. The capacity of Prophet Harun's, peace be upon him, working memory is also evident when Prophet Musa, peace be upon him, entrusted him with leadership over his people and with maintaining reform among them during his absence of 40 nights, as mentioned in Surah Al-A'raf, verses 142. During this period, Harun adhered to the instruction given to him, retained them and implemented them despite the difficult circumstance. Next, long-term storage and retrieval. In the domain of long-term retrieval, we see that Prophet Harun did not cease reminding his people of monotheism and obedience to Allah despite their stubbornness. This is mentioned in Surah Taha, verses 90 and 91. This demonstrates his ability to retrieve divine teachings from long-term memory and to reiterate them with consistency and awareness. The last one is visual processing and social perception. Prophet Harun, peace be upon him, demonstrated his ability for perception and observation when he saw his people deviating from the truth as mentioned in Surah Taha, verses 92 and 93. This indicates his capacity to identify religious and behavioral deviation through careful observation of the realities of society.
So I will continue with the EQ, which is emotional intelligence. So the first one is emotional perception. The sensitivity to emotional and faith changes in the community. Prophet Harun immediately perceived the emotional instability of the Bani of Israel after the absence of Prophet Musa. They were not merely confused, rather they were in a state of emotional imbalance that led to a deviation in belief, namely the worship of the calf. This early awareness reflects his ability to read the psychological state of the community before the crisis escalated further. The second one is emotional utilization. So this focuses on how emotions are used to guide actions. Prophet Harun used his understanding of the people's emotional instability to respond with patience and wise counsel, preventing greater conflict and preserving unity. This indicates his awareness of the social and emotional risks involved and his deliberate choice to manage the situation prudently. The third one is emotional regulation. This focuses on one's own emotions. Prophet Harun controlled his emotions under pressure, responding with patience and restraint to avoid greater conflict. This shown in Surah Al-A'raf, verse 150, which demonstrates his emotional self-control and awareness of the consequences of uncontrolled reactions. Number 4, motivation and persistence in Prophet Harun are clearly reflected in his continuous efforts to advise and guide the Bani Israel during the trial of the calf worship. Despite facing rejection and resistance from his people, he remained motivated to uphold monotheism and persistently called them back to the worship of Allah with patience and responsibility, demonstrating steadfast commitment to his prophetic mission. For social awareness and empathy, Prophet Harun demonstrated a deep understanding of the social tension and pressure faced by the Bani Israel. He empathized with their emotional weakness and deliberately restrained his actions to avoid violence and preserve unity within the community, as shown in Surah Taha, verse 94, and Surah Al-A'raf, verse 150. Prophet Harun made a wise and ethical decisions by restraining himself, advising his people patiently, and avoiding force to preserve safety and unity.
Spiritual intelligence. Number 1, inner awareness and self-transcendence. In the dimension of inner awareness and self-transcendence, it is clear that Harun, peace be upon him, saw himself as a servant of God, not a possessor of authority or ego. This is reflected in Musa's prayer in Taha from verse 29 to verse 32, where Harun accepted his supportive role without jealousy or conflict, resulting in harmonious leadership and the continuation of the prophetic mission without any struggle for power. Number 2, existential questioning and critical thinking. Through deep reflection, Harun, peace be upon him, understood that the people's devotion was not mere rebellion, but a spiritual test and trial, as indicated in Toha verse 90. He addressed the root of the problem with awareness and wisdom, maintaining moral clarity without haste or emotional reaction. Number 3. Meaning, purpose, and mission. When Harun, peace be upon him, was entrusted with the leadership in place of Musa, peace be upon him, he was fully aware of the weight of the responsibility and the clarity of the prophetic mission. This is reflected in Al-A'raf verse 142, where he continued guiding and reforming the people despite rejection and crisis, ensuring the continuity of leadership and the prophetic path. Number 4. Commitment to ethical conduct. Despite misunderstanding and accusations, Harun, peace be upon him, remained steadfast in moral principles, as reflected in Toha, verse 94, and Al-A'raf, verse 150. He rejected enforcing reform through violence, preserving a model of ethical and legitimate leadership. Number 5. Transcendence and holistic connectedness. Through his understanding of spiritual, social, and moral interconnectedness, Harun, peace be upon him, prioritized the unity of the people over conflict, as shown in Toha and Al-A'raf in the previously mentioned verses, resulting in social cohesion and the avoidance of division. Number 6. Resilience, growth, and inner peace. By trusting in God's wisdom, Harun, peace be upon him, demonstrated inner resilience and serenity, as reflected in Al-A'raf verse 150. He maintained leadership stability and avoided emotional breakdown even in the most challenging moments.